Now let's add a little bit of detail on our cylindrical piece kind of behind that bar there. And so to do this, I want to kind of create a repeated piece, kind of similar to what we did in a previous level where we duplicated something across to create this sort of detailed look, where we did with the solar array. So let's create, this time, a NURBS primitive. Let's bring in a cylinder. And let's go ahead and kind of bring it over here. All right, and so I want to kind of shape this a little bit. Let's rotate this 90 degrees in the Y. Get that. This is the seam. I want to get that out of the way. And then I want to add a little bit of shape to this. I can change the height of this and the radius. So let me take the radius down a little bit. And let's take the height ratio up a little. And then we can scale it the rest of the way. But I want to add a little bit of shape to this so it's not just a cylinder. So to do that, we're going to manipulate the holes, if you remember from the last level. So we're going to choose hole, and I'm going to select the 2 vertical holes on the outer side here, and let's just kind of push those in, and let's scale them in the X. Okay, so we end up with a shape that is kind of like that. So something just a little bit more interesting than just a strict cylinder shape. And if we want to kind of flatten off the back too, we can grab those holes, or that hole, that vertical hole on the back, kind of pull this in a little bit, and then maybe select those holes back there. And it looks like we've got the bottom. So I want that one and this one, and then we'll pull those forward. Just kind of flatten it off a little bit. All right, and then we can decide what's the scale that we want this to be. So I'm going to scale this down a little bit, bring it forward a bit, and we can kind of test it just by hitting Control D to duplicate and seeing what that looks like next to each other. So, maybe something like that is a good scale. And so we can kind of move this over, and right now there's not a real sharp line here, and so I can come in and select those polygons, and we're working here on a mirrored object, and so we just select one of these at a time here, and I'll just deselect that entire loop, and then let's do an extrude and just add that new line in there, and that'll help to, when we smooth it, kind of make sure that that's nice and tight. All right, let's scale this piece up over here on one side until it kind of penetrates in. Okay, now looking at this, if we freeze this transformation and then duplicate, and we move it over to the spot where we want it, it looks like minus 0.7 is good. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and take this object. It's moving in we're going to be moving it in the Z direction. So let's go to duplicate special. And in the Z, we'll go ahead, let's reset this. X, Y, and Z translate. We'll go minus 0.7. And let's just add 15. Okay, now we don't need that many. So we can come in and now start to get rid of some of those extra ones. So basically that one, I think that one we can get rid of, and then the rest, so there's one extra out there. All right, now we'll come in and take the one in the middle. I'm just going to scale it up till it gets to the top of that circle, and then on either side, I'll just do it in pairs because the circle goes down equally on the sides. So just come in and scale those up, and then same thing here. So then we can take all of these new struts here that we've created, make sure that we just delete the history and freeze those transforms. And then if we want to, kind of group that together, center the pivot, and now we have that sort of grill shape. And it just creates a little bit more kind of an interesting look, kind of blocking in some of these open areas, just as we kind of did here. Okay, and we can copy that over to the other side, just as we did with the other piece, by taking this group, and now we've centered the pivot on this. We can call this something like grill. A lot of times I'll just make a temporary group by just grouping that grill group, Control D, negative in the X, freeze the transformations, and then you can always come into your outliner and drop them out of that temporary group. So selecting your grill, drop them out. You can see because they have the same name, we'll talk about naming more later, but they have the same name, so it's added the 1 to this one. All right, so that's how we can sort of add these little grill-like struts inside there to add a little bit more interest. If you wanted to, you could actually also add a kind of a channel that comes right to the front of this to make it look a little bit more incorporated into the model. You would just add some edge loops in here to be able to create that. You can see it's pretty tight fit in there, but you can push that in more if you wanted to. So the next thing we'll do is, I think it's ready. I think we're ready to build the handle. So let's go ahead in the next lesson and start to build out the basic shape of our handle. So we'll go ahead and do that next.